Hi, welcome back. This is for lesson 1-2. So this one's going to go pretty quick. You can read through this review if you like. And again, we're going to give you a chance to copy the segment and cut it in half. You don't really have to do that. The part I'm grading is that you practice writing out your steps, and you already have that on your study guide. So you're basically like kind of reading through here, copy a segment, and you're trying to abbreviate or review in your head these 3 steps. So I'll show you what would be one possible answer. So to copy a segment, I draw a long line with a straight edge and mark a random point. We can call it M. Okay. Then step 2, I'm going to open my compass to kind of measure that line segment to be copied. All right, so if I'm kind of pretending, I'm sketching a line, I'm opening my compass to just kind of measure that. I forgot step 1, right? Open a compass to kind of measure that line. So that's how open ST is, and I kind of make like a little imaginary arc. And then I go down step 3 and make that same arc down here. So there'd be a little imaginary arc, and then you'd make an arc right there, okay? And that would be my other point, and we'll call that N. So step 3, it's like I'm copying over that amount. Copying over that amount, making an arc, and then finding that point N. And letter doesn't really matter. I just picked a random letter of the alphabet. To cut this thing in half, there's 3 steps as well. And we can kind of cheat off of our study guide. I'm looking for you to summarize these 3 steps. So I'm not going to write them over because that'll take me some extra time, but if you want to pause the video and try to abbreviate or copy over these 3 steps here for bisecting a segment. All right, and then bisecting an angle, go ahead and copy those 3 steps. So there's an angle bisector. If you want to freeze the tape, try to abbreviate or copy over these 3 steps. Got it? Okay, welcome back. Now you have copied these steps over. I just didn't do them, but make sure you do them. Don't copy the words "do this." Okay, now let's look at these 2. And these are kind of thinking ones. They won't show up in the test, but they help us think. So why do I have to open the compass a width that's larger than half in order to make a perpendicular bisector? So I'm going to demonstrate that. That's a really good question. I think it's pretty cool. It makes me think. So I'm going to actually show you by failure. So if I forgot to open it more than halfway, and let's say I made a little arc here, and I made the same little arc there, do those meet? Hopefully you're saying to yourself, no, they don't meet, Miss Cruzmark. So that's why. Now I'll show you the right way to bisect a line. The right way to bisect a line is open it up at least halfway, a little bit more than halfway. Make an arc. That's a much bigger arc. All right. Then make another arc. Notice those cross, just like we did in class. So this arc crosses this arc, and that's how you bisect a line. Beautiful. That line is now cut in half. So why? Because if the distance is shorter, we can abbreviate, but shorter than half, the arcs won't meet. Okay, that's a kind of a reasonable answer. Now let's look at number 20. Model with mathematics. The sides of a roof meet at a 20-degree angle. A strip of wood extends down from the vertex so that it bisects the angle. Okay, so let's just draw a house. I think most people would draw a house. Kind of looks like that, right? They're saying that where the roof and the side of my house meet, they're saying this angle is 120. And I think that sounds pretty good. I could take a protractor and measure that. It looks about 120. And again, think bigger than 90. So if a corner of a piece of paper is 90 and I open it a little bit bigger, 120. Now, I think I feel pretty good. This is my rough draft, so I think it feels pretty good drawing. That's kind of my house. I don't really need the rest of my house, but that kind of would help people see that. So I'm saying that angle is 120, right? And again, I'm just focusing on the angle that the roof meets the wall. And now if I had to take a strip of wood and extend it from the vertex, so this is a vertex, so that it bisects, that means cut in half. Okay, so if it cut that in half, I think it would be right about there. So this should be 60 degrees, that's 60 degrees because the whole thing is 120. Draw a diagram of the wood, the roof with the bisecting strip of wood. So this is my bisecting strip of wood, and I can use highlighters to kind of show that. So I'm just going to make my strip of wood green and highlight that green. I said that the angle that the roof meets the side of the wall was 120, so I'm just kind of highlighting that there. Okay, and that's me modeling with mathematics. Done. Now let's go to lesson 1.3. So we've got some formulas here, and again, on the test you can use a number of ways, but I'm going to try to practice using these formulas. I think those will be good. Okay, so first question, question number 21. I gave a section to put this answer here, so let's look at question 21. It says, find the midpoint of EF. So E looks like it's at the coordinate -3, +2. And F looks like it's at the coordinate 1, 3. So using this formula here, I'm going to add the two x values and then divide by 2. Add the two y values, divide by 2. -1, 5.5. That would be in a calculator, what is that, 2.5. Okay, so I'm going to put the midpoint is -1, actually, you know what? I'm going to leave that blank for my distance because they also want me to find the distance, so we'll do that. All right, so I'm just going to circle that as my midpoint and call that M. Now let's double check our answers. So we're saying the midpoint would be -1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 halves. Yeah, that's exactly what that looks like. I like it. You could have guessed that coordinate, and if you come close on the test, I'll give you points. Now, they also said find the length. So I need to use the distance formula. So just kind of looking at my, kind of like we did in the activity today, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So the distance of that hypotenuse should be 4 squared plus 1 squared, and take the square root. So EF should be 4 squared plus 1 square, and take the square root of my answer. That's what's happening here. You can find the coordinates. You can take the x values and subtract 1 minus a -3 or -3 minus 4, and you're still going to get 4 or -4. So counting the blocks is easier than using this formula, and if you do it this way, you're still pretty much using the formula. So let's figure that out. I get 4 times 4 is 16, plus another one is 17. So I would take the square root of 17 as my final answer for distance. And let's say you guess the distance. The square root of 17 is 4.1. If you guessed anywhere near 4.1 or 4, notice that's 4. That looked pretty close to 4. That would have been a good guess. I'll take that too. All right, let's do another one, FG. So here's FG. I'm just going to erase this one so I don't have too much going on in the picture. Okay. So let's look at FG now. I have 2 and 4. So let's do the distance first. I got 2 squared plus 4 squared, and then I'm going to take the square root. So FG, the distance, is 2 squared plus 4 squared, and then I'm going to take the square root. So that would be 4 plus 16 is 20. Okay, we had that one today in our activity. Square root of 20 is about 4.5. Okay. And again, if you guessed a little bit more than 4, you would have been right. And I would take a pretty accurate guess as well. Now let's find the midpoint. It looks like it's going to be at 3, 2. So you could get this by guessing. Let's prove it's right using this formula. I need the coordinates again. So the F coordinate is 1, 3. The G is 5, 1. So add the 2 x coordinates, cut it in half, add the 2 y coordinates, cut it in half. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Oh, they're the same number. So guessing or calculating, same thing. Let's do one more. Hopefully we can squish them. All right, GH. So GH, definitely, I think I feel confident. The midpoint is 3, 0. The distance is 4 squared and 2 squared, and take the square root. I already did that. 4 squared and 2 squared is going to be 16 plus 4, and the square root, so the square root of 20. Square root of 20 is still 4.5. Same distance. And again, if you look in your picture, this distance looks the same as that distance. So that number should make sense. Now let's use the formula. We have G coordinate is 5, 1. H is 1, negative 1. So add the 2 x values, cut it in half. 6 divided by 2 is 3, so that's what we had guessed. Add the 2 y values, 1 plus a negative 1 divided by 2 is 0. Awesome. Thanks for joining us. Check out the last video to see the last 3 questions and section 1.4.